For today's project, we're going to replace the rear rotors on a 2017 Lexus RX350. So the 2017 Lexus RX350 has an automatic parking brake. It's a parking brake that is activated by electric motors at the rotor. So what we want to do is disengage the parking brake. I'm actually going to turn the automatic feature off until we're done. So we're going to go ahead and turn it on, and we'll just hold that in until the auto light goes off. Alright, there's no red light here, so the parking brake is disengaged and it's not set to auto. We'll go ahead and shut the car off. The first thing we want to do is to jack the vehicle up and take the wheel off. So now that the wheel's off, the next step is going to be to disconnect this connector right here. This is the power connector for the electric motor that activates the e-brake. So we'll just push in right here. I'll try to let you guys see it, and wiggle it and pull. And that's it. Set that to the side. Kind of. Next, we need to remove the caliper. We're going to take out the upper and the lower bolt right here, which is 14 millimeter. Set this out of the way, keeping pressure off the hose. And then we'll remove the caliper bracket. So the caliper bracket has two bolts, one here and one here, and we're going to use a 19 millimeter socket to take those out. And we take the rotor off. Alright, we've got our new rotor here and our brake cleaner. Go ahead and give this a quick wipe just to make sure there's no grease or other stuff on here. So I'm going to replace the brake pads on this also. The set of rotors I got came with brake pads, and even though these are still got a lot of life left to them, I'm going to go ahead and switch them out. So we'll take these out, take these clips out. And then I like to get them cleaned up with my brake cleaner. We got to remove these pins and just re-lube them. These just pull out but they've got a boot you have to disconnect. There we go. It's fairly good, but we'll clean them up and redo them anyway. And here's our caliper lubricant that came with the brake pads. Just make sure there's an even coat so they can slide in and out. And we'll put that back in and make sure the boot seats onto the bolt or the pin. And then we'll do the next one. And that one's kind of stuck, so this one could have been a problem. It's a little tougher to get out. Alright, I'll get that cleaned up. And put that back in. Boot's connected. And it moves freely. A little bit of suction on them, but they move. Alright. So these brake pads come with the hardware. They've got these spring clips that go with them. It's important to know which way they go in here. So we're going to orient this to where it's going to go the way it would be on the vehicle. These are the two bolts, so this goes towards the hub or the axle, and this would go towards the outside of the wheel. Here's one of the clips. The top part of the spring here goes towards the rotor. The round part on this side goes towards the outside. So having our caliper bracket positioned this way, we are going to slip this in here, and I'll show you in a minute once it's in there what it looks like. Alright, so that's seated in there. We've got the caliper is going to be mounted like this, which means this is going to be to the outside or away from the rotor, and the spring is going to be towards the rotor. So we'll get the rest of our clips put in. Round to the outside. The other thing about these clips is that the spring part goes on the side that's towards the hub or the axle, so you don't put them on upside down. Okay, so we have our clips installed. We've got the high side of the clip towards the rotor. The round side is towards the outside, and the end with the clip, the side of the clip goes towards the hub or the axle, so on this side. and they're both the same. We're going to need to lube these clips we just put in where the brake pads slide. So we'll take a little lube and get that in there. Kind of a pain, but not too big of a deal. I actually put some on the brake pads themselves too, on the parts that slide in here, just to make sure I have enough in there, because it's kind of hard to get your finger in there to get it evenly distributed. Alright, so we're going to mount our caliper bracket back on. Get that in there. So this is our caliper. Here's the piston right here, and this is the electric motor that activates the emergency brake. As you can see, the piston is out a ways, and what we want to do is get that pushed back in a little bit so the brake pads will fit on the new rotor. Right here are the two electrical connections that we need to get power to. Positive on one side and negative on the other will make the piston come out or in, and reversing that will do the opposite. So we need to figure out which one makes it go out and which one makes it go in. So what I want to do is create a kind of an adapter to get power from, well, what I'm going to use is the car's own battery to get it to these terminals. What I have is these guys, and it looks like the 20 gauge is probably the size that we're going to use. I have cut off the end of one of them, the plastic part, just so I can get to the metal right there. I want that right on the connector. So let's see if it fits. And yeah, nice snug fit. That should be okay. So I'm going to do the same with the blue one. I'll use the blue for the ground, I'll use the red for the positive, and we'll crimp the other end onto a wire. Okay, so here are our two connectors. Red is positive. We use the blue connector on the black wire for the ground, and I'm going to run the other end to the battery of the car, and we'll connect them and see which way the caliper moves, and so we can get it to move back in, or see which way the piston moves so we can move it back into the caliper. So on our battery end, we don't need anything too permanent. We just need it to stay connected and not pull out while we're working on the car. So we'll just kind of get that to sit on there. That's the positive. And then the negative. Let's see where we can put this guy. Yeah, I think we can just stuff it in there. Yep, and as long as it's touching, we'll have a good connection. Okay, so with our power on the connector closest to the rotor and our negative on the top, that is pushing the piston towards the rotor, so we want to go the other way. So we're going to take the, actually let's connect the ground to the bottom. Alright, and we will put the power to the top one. Now what we need to do is compress it with the my clamp. Actually, I can do this with my fingers, so we're just going to do that. And we need to go in a little bit farther. So we'll back the motor off a bit. All right. Yeah, that should be good. All right, so we'll move our caliper out of the way. Set it back here for now, and we'll put our brake pads in. So here's our new brake pad, and we have this clip. This clip is the wear indicator. We've got a number of different nicknames for them, but basically what they do is when the brake pad gets low enough, this piece, this little end right here, hits the rotor and starts squealing, lets you know that your brake pads are extra low and need to be replaced. So we are going to install that this way. This piece goes on here, and the tip right here is facing the rotor, so that when the brake pads get low enough, this piece right here will actually touch the rotor. We have one on each side of this brake pad, and the brake pads with these indicators go on the side of the caliper where the piston is at. So the piston actually pushes on this brake pad. The brake pads on the other side of the caliper do not have this indicator. So we'll go ahead and put this one on the inside. Let me apply some grease to my brake pads here. It's hard to get in the caliper itself. So the parts of the brake pad that make contact with the caliper is where the grease needs to be. The parts that need to slide, basically. All right, that's good for now. This can be kind of a pain to get in sometimes. All right, that one's in. All right, here's our outside brake pad. Put some lubricant on that also, so it can slide. All right, and we'll put that one in. All right. Now we will put the caliper on. All right, once that's tightened up, we need to remember to reconnect our connector here. All right. And that's about it till we put the wheel on. As always when putting the wheel back on, you tighten the lugs in a star shape, so opposite sides. Get them as snug as you can while it's up off the ground, and then we're gonna lower it on the ground and tighten them up. And that's it for this side, and we're going to start the other side next. Alright, so now we're on the passenger side. Got the wheel off. Disconnected the power adapter for the e-brake motor. And we're going to go ahead and take the caliper off. Do the same thing we did on the other side. So for the passenger side, we need to determine which terminal we need to use for positive and negative on the e-brake motor to retract the piston. On the driver's side, we needed the positive wire on the top terminal and the ground on the bottom to retract the piston. So we're going to try the same here. We're going to put the ground here on the bottom terminal and positive to the top, and that's opposite on this side. For this side, we'll put the ground on the top, positive on the bottom, and there we go. It's a little tough getting it started, but we've just about got what we need out of it. Oh, too much. Bring it back out just a little bit. All right, should be good. Okay, we got the last tire back on. Now it's time to activate the e-brake, get that set, and then we'll do a test drive and make sure everything's good. So we'll pull up here until auto comes on. So we want that set. And there it is. Just got back from a quick test drive. Everything tests out good and our project is done. If you learned anything from this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. I appreciate it. Thanks for watching.